Hi readers, Kris here. Tonight I'm coming at you with some comic book recommendations. It was fully my intention to do one of these videos like every couple months, but it's been a while since I did episode 1. If you want to check that one out though, I will link it up above. But today I'm going to jump in with 4 new comic book recommendations. As always, I have a little bit of a range, including some classic comics, some Marvel, some DC, and some independent. If you can't tell by my crazy makeup and look, the first comic that I want to talk about tonight is the one, the only, the sensational She-Hulk. Yes, that's right, She-Hulk. She just has a brand new show that started. I think only episode 1 has dropped so far. I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun, so I thought now would be a great time to talk about the sensational She-Hulk comic. So this is a more of a classic comic, so it definitely has that classic comic book look and feel. But here's a couple things that you should know about She-Hulk. Number 1, She-Hulk is sexy. Yes, that's right. Even though she turns green and angry, look at her. She has a whole comic panel where she tries on different outfits. Unlike Bruce Banner's version of the Hulk, where he gets all like big and angry and kind of like gross looking, she just looks like she's got toned muscles and looks kind of hot. So that's really funny. Number 2, She-Hulk does something called breaking the fourth wall. If you're a fan of Deadpool, if you've seen the Deadpool movies, you will know that he often stops what he's doing and like turns and looks at the camera, so it looks like he's talking to you directly. But guess what? Deadpool was not the first person to ever do this in the comic books. It was She-Hulk. It was She-Hulk. Throughout this comic book, she often stops and turns and talks to the writers or maybe who's drawing her and has funny comments. And I'm glad to see that that fourth wall breaking is in the show as well, because it's just a fun part of her character. The other thing that you love about She-Hulk is that She-Hulk is super funny. Like, even though this comic is old and it's kind of an old style, anyone can pick this up and read it and get some sense of humor in it. Like, the stories are so bizarre, they're so wacky. I don't know if they're really going to use any of this for the show, but there's like a couple issues where she meets up with this group of space truckers. So think like stereotypical like southern plaid shirt, cap wearing like truckers, but that have gone into outer space. And then she meets this Yeti and she gets all hairy. There's also this one in the beginning where like, oh, there's a guy, she gets sucked into a television and she goes through all these like different TV shows. It's real wacky. It's real fun though. It's a lot of fun. So if you're looking for a new comic and you want something that's light, that's fun, that's flirty, a little sexy, but really silly and fun, definitely check out the sensational She-Hulk. And if you want to know more about the show, this is a good place to start. Before my next pick, I just want to mention really quick, because Sandman also just came out on Netflix. I already covered Sandman in my previous video, so again, if you want to know more about that comic, definitely go check out episode 1. Next up, I have a indie comic that I wanted to share. This is one that is 100% a personal favorite of mine, and that is Fables. Fables was originally published by this company called Vertigo. Unfortunately, Vertigo is not around anymore, but you can still find their comics, you know, wherever comics and graphic novels are sold. Now, the whole setup of Fables is that basically a bunch of fairy tale characters, storybook characters, so think everyone from Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, to the Big Bad Wolf and the Three Little Pigs, they all ran away from this storyland and now they're living in New York City. That's right. There is a borough of New York called Fabletown. Now, no one can see it, like the humans can't see it, only the fairy tale characters can. So they all live in this Fabletown, and the story kind of follows like what happens to them there. So it starts out in the beginning where we have the big bad wolf, who is basically, he's a private detective. He's security in this town. And there is a murder that takes place. So he gets hired to investigate this murder. He works with, I believe, Snow White, who is the mayor of this town. And I believe it was actually her sister, Rose Red, who was murdered. Yeah, murder. So it starts out as a murder mystery, but those are just like the early episodes. This series had an incredibly long run. It goes on for a very long time, and it totally it starts very small and contained and totally blows up into this big, like, epic thing where there's this war happening in Storyland, and it just gets super crazy. But I just love the whole concept of, like, fairy tale characters being in real life. If you ever saw that show Once Upon a Time on ABC, it's very much like that, except this is for adults. It's not for children. There is violence in it. There is sex in it. So it's like if HBO did Once Upon a Time, that would give you Fables, I think. So again, this is a little bit older now, but it's not as old as like SheHulk. So if you are someone like me, you love fantasy, you love fairy tales, all that type of stuff, Fables is definitely a comic you should check out. Next up, another personal favorite of mine. I did a Marvel comic, so I think it's only fair that I do a DC comic as well. So my pick for this time is Blackest Night by Jeff Johns. First of all, I just have to say that this series is all about Green Lantern. If you're not familiar with Green Lantern in the DC universe, first of all, what's wrong with you? But second of all, yes, if you saw that Green Lantern movie by Ryan Reynolds, I actually don't think that movie was as bad as everyone made it out to be. But regardless, Green Lantern is basically a space cop / space cowboy. So there is this group of entities called the Green Lantern Corps, and it's the Green Lantern Corps' mission to like keep peace throughout the universe. And each member of this corps is kind of assigned like a sector or a planet to watch over. And it just so happens that this Green Lantern is assigned with watching over Earth. Now, there's been a lot of people that have had the Green Lantern title over the years, but our original Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, he's kind of takes center stage in this one. Now, it would take a while to explain exactly how everything in this universe works, but let's just say that the Green Lanterns, like, kind of use the power of courage, let's say, and this manifests via the color green. Now, there are other colors out there in the rainbow. There's red, orange, yellow, etc., etc., etc. There are other lanterns that use different colors that manifest powers in different ways. So, for example, there is a group of red lanterns, and they use anger, and their powers manifest through the use of anger. Now, in Blackest Night, all of a sudden, there is a new group of lanterns that appears, and they are black lanterns. Dun, dun, da, da. And of course, blackness. Black is associated with death. So, throughout the course of this story, there's a lot of death. There is a lot of death. A lot of characters in the DC universe die and basically come back as zombies. I'm keeping it real simple here, but think your Batman, your Superman, your Wonder Woman. They die, they come back as zombies through use of these black lanterns and their death power, which I think is absolutely super cool. Super cool. I mean, I'm just gonna put that up there so you can take a look. I mean, yeah. First of all, the story itself is super cool. But the other thing I think that makes this comic absolutely amazing is the artwork. The artwork in this comic is absolutely 100% phenomenal. And I just don't mean like, yes, there's some crazy stuff when it comes to like the whole thing of death. Like, I think all that stuff is super cool, but it goes beyond that. The way that this artist uses color and uses color to tell a story is just, it's just brilliant. It's just absolutely brilliant and stunning. There are so many cool character deaths in this book, and then so many like flashes of color and light. It's an amazing story. It's an amazing few issues. Like I said, the artwork is amazing. It's just amazing. I love color. I love comic books that are like super colorful and bold, just like She-Hulk is a little bit. So, great story, great action, great colors. It is my hope that one day we can get to a point where we can see a story like this, like on the big screen or even on the TV screen. Unfortunately, we haven't even gotten a good Green Lantern character yet, so it would take a while to like do that. But DC does do a lot of animated movies, and they haven't really done a Blackest Night animated movie yet. They've done a ton of good ones like Flashpoint, there's a million, but I would love for them to do Blackest Night one day. I hope someday it comes about. Maybe I can manifest it in my mind, but until then, check out Blackest Night today. Finally, I wanted to end with another indie comic, but one that is way more current, and the one I'm featuring today is called The Passageway. And even though it's called The Passageway, this book is actually like a side story of a larger series that is called the Bone Orchard Mythos. Now, full disclosure, I have not read the Bone Orchard Mythos. We got this because my husband and I found it on sale when we were, out comic shopping. So I have not read the main storyline. I'm sure other people out there could probably tell you more about that. So all I can tell you is about this book, The Passageway, which this version, this hardcover, just came out like over the summer. So it's very, very new. Anyone can go pick this up. And you do not have to have read The Bone Orchard to read this one, because I didn't, and I read this and I was like, now let me tell you something. I read a lot of Stephen King, but I don't read a lot of like other horror. So I'm not someone that gets scared of books. I get like creeped out, you kind of get that tingly, like creepy crawly feeling if something is like, ooh, like if something's really scary. That is exactly what I felt reading this comic. It's quite short. It's not that big. So literally anyone can pick this up, breeze right through it, understand what's going on. And I shouldn't say I guarantee, but I 90% guarantee if you read this comic, you will be creeped out at some point. So basically the setup is there's this archaeologist. He gets called to an island, and this island has a mysterious hole. And he's kind of there to investigate like what is going on. He's told that this hole just randomly appeared on the island. There's an old woman who lives in a lighthouse there, and he's investigating this hole in the ground. I'm not going to say anything else because I don't want to give anything away, but let me just say that like I am reading the story and it's going along, and all of a sudden, bam, like this is in your face, and I was like, whoa, like in the context of the story, that was really creepy. Now there are some other definitely creepy parts. This is a horror comic. It is a horror comic. So if you are someone that is into that type of thing, I've heard a lot of people say that the Bone Orchard Mythos is really good. But because I haven't read it, I can't technically recommend that one. But The Passageway is super interesting and super exciting. And again, unlike Blackest Night, which has parts with like a lot of color and is very vivid and very bright, this one is very muted. But even though it is muted, like there's so much detail just in like the dark colors, just in black and white. I mean, that's amazing. I have so much respect for artists, for comic book artists, because art is just not a skill that I have. I am the most unartistic person ever. But I mean, look how creepy that is. It's so creepy. It gave me the creepy crawlies. I was like, oh my god, this is gonna give me nightmares. Definitely the stuff of nightmares in here. So if you're into that, The Passageway. This is the comic I most recently read, and I just had to talk about it. That's it for today's comic recommendations. Hopefully there's something in here that appeals to you, whether you're looking for something old school, fairy tale, newer school, horror, whatever you're into, there is a comic book out there for you. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up so I know to make more. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel for more bookish stuff coming your way soon. All right, everyone, happy reading.